Good afternoon on what is a warm, grey and cloudy day. It is Tuesday the 2nd of April and I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a parcel to unbox. So let's get the knife to it. I don't think I need to actually. So let's just score along the break there. There we go. It comes away easily enough. What I've got in there is that. It's a copy of Beowulf. I'll just need the knife to cut through packaging. This is published by Handiwork Games. Also known for the role-playing game Mask Witches of Doggerlands, which is another book I ought to take the time to review. But this is Beowulf, Age of Heroes. So, one of the oldest stories in Western Europe, Beowulf is the ultimate tale of hero versus monster, and now a dramatic 5th edition setting. After designed for duet play, 1 GM and 1 player, Beowulf, Age of Heroes presents a host of new and specially adapted 5th edition rules to create epic and cinematic thematic adventures for your lone hero and their followers. Discover a fierce background of wild seeds and savage monsters, of mead halls and of heirloom swords that bear legendary names. Gain followers and take inspiration from unique portents to guide your voyage along the Whale Road. Choose to play the mighty Benchbreaker, the wily Riddle Weaver, or the sturdy Ox-Blooded. With a range of setting-specific backgrounds, you might be the Chosen One, or adrift and seeking answers. You may be the Avengers, or of noble blood. Beowulf, Age of Heroes presents 272 pages of beautifully illustrated mythic setting and rules evoking a legendary age of tales, poems, and song. So let's have a look. So we've got basically a nice little list of comments from various people, and we open up, and very brown, but that's fine. Basically, lovely image of a shield there, and then contents page, and forward, and that's by let's have a look. Maria Dahvana Headley, who has written Beowulf, a new translation. So nice, interesting person that actually got hold of to do a forward for this. And then got an introduction explaining what Beowulf is, what the game is, and the history of Beowulf. And then we're into part 1, the world of Beowulf. And it's an Age of Heroes. Essentially, in the real world, it's set during the period of Anglo-Saxon migration and settlement, certainly of England. And here we have a map of the Whale Road, a map of the peoples and places of which many are both drawn from the centuries of tales and those names and placements which are at best unreliable. So lovely map there. And then we have an explanation of sort of like what the Whale Road is, the landscape, the mead halls that the characters will encounter, the courts, the kings and queens they visit, what they'll expect in terms of loyalty and responsibility, hospitality, general background and so on. And it says, one interesting thing is, no inns. You are relying entirely upon the hospitality of the people of the land, whether that's the kings and queens, the local lords, that sort of thing. And then we move down the social order to look at common people, slaves and slavery, scops and smiths, poetry and iron, places and peoples around the railroad. I keep wanting to say railroad, but if instead I think of it as whale-road, W-A-I-L, road upon which I can whale, I might get it right. And so we have a list here of the modern nations and old peoples. Essentially, the peoples there in the period which are generally regarded as sort of like as the Dark Ages. And we move on to list of the old gods, gods of the old ways: Wotan, Odin, often Godan, and so on. Going through each of these, providing sort of like a patron essentially for your player character in the setting, the role of the church in the period, because this is a period when the church is attempting to spread into Western Europe and onto into the Anglo-Saxon world. We've got a note here upon the Christianity of the period and how faith works in the setting. And then new rules for Beowulf, Age of Heroes, essentially looking at the one class, the hero class, how to use alignment, elements such as using ships and followers, ship's crew, how spears are always available, and that's in terms of essentially so he's never weaponless, there is always a spear he can grasp. And this is looking at the adventures he may well take, whether that's the portent is and using creating like an inspiration pool, essentially, which the player character and the player essentially could draw from, and so on. We'll move on to how to create a hero, character creation. So optional rules for things like Peoples of Beowulf, quirks. We've got some new background. So this is the Adrift. The Avenger here, then the Chosen One. And each time it's suggesting, it's giving a feature, suggested characteristics, a personality trait, ideal, bond, and flaw. So essentially defining parts of the character. Noble blood. And we've got the foundling. And the believer. The exile. So you could play this sort of like multiple times with different characters, with different stories to be told. And then we have each time taking a different class, type of hero class presented. And we move on to the hero class in general, because each of those backgrounds is going to tell a slightly different story. And essentially here we have sort of looking at some of the elements that go into making sort of heroic tales. Whether that is the bench breaker or swift blessed. Ox spirited, riddle weaver, essentially someone who uses their wits. Council caller, someone who's honey tongued. And then we have equipment and ships. We're talking about wealth and currency, which is going to be possessed rather than necessarily coins made. And then we have best armor. Some really nice illustrations as well, highlighting there isn't actually a great deal of option in terms of armor. And it's doing the same thing for weapons. We've got the weapons summary table at the end. and we're talking about the property of the war gear, and then normal gear as well, and then burdens and gifts from normal gear, so sort of like the bonuses and banes that you might suffer from carrying them with you. Another note on there on slavery, depending upon how historically accurate you want to portray, there are rules there for it. And then we move on to ships. Important because ships are the most important means of travel in the period. We've got a guide there to sea battles, heroic feats. And then what do you do if you've got more than one player, because this is meant to be a one-on-one role-playing game. And then we move on to followers, which are generally the, sort of like the stand-in for the other player characters, as it were. So there's an option here for saying essentially everyone a follower. So that's going to be interesting to look at. Then the idea of possibly non-human followers, depending upon what other species you allow in your campaign. So how this is essentially how you use followers in the game, and then at the end, at the reward stage, dealing with dead followers, departing followers, even releasing followers from their calling to join you, and then they can have their own burdens and gifts as well. And these are accompanied by some fantastic illustrations. I mean, that's terrific. The idea is sort of like, you've got such a cracked and mad face there. And the followers also essentially enable the game master to get involved and tell the story of, from the follower's side. And actually properly roleplay. So then we're on to the adventure. Beginning of the adventure, coming to face with the preparation of portent and what it may well mean. Essentially setting up the story, and then sail and swell at the voyage, journeying out to follow the portent. Or even not, you might actually, have a story where you could sail away from the portent. Of course, it doesn't going to work. You're always going to be pulled back into it. So we've got different encounters on top of it in the region, and then essentially part of the journey, and then we come to the point where the player character can rest and, or at least parley with a group, find sustenance in a mead hall. Dealing with meetings and what they can learn from in the mead hall, and so on, where they might meet followers and assistants, interesting folk, and then the suggestions for other meeting locations as well. We've got a section on exploration. So you might be sailing to new lands. Encountering some of the structures to be found there, including built structures and monster layers. We're always going to come back to one of those. And here we have a section on how to build the monster, that foe which the player character's got to overcome. And afterwards, rest and rewards for undertaking such a great task, having defeated a monster, perhaps even more than one monster. So we have achievement rewards, rich rewards, the monster's horde, rewarding followers and crew and others, and then the journal. Perhaps the player character should be keeping a journal. Player should be keeping a journal. and even the followers as well. And then we have a notes on apprentice for heroes who might be in your company, and of course the other reason to journey and to confront the monsters is possibly find lost or great treasures, or indeed lost great treasures. Now we have including magical treasures, and we've got tables and the means to create those, and even create a story around them. So that makes the magical treasure much more interesting. And we've got a table of naming such items, and they might come from the church. Examples of treasures from the church, from the old ways, so on. So lots of different sources. Then we have basically a campaign here, the three ogre brothers. That's actually how it begins, with the portent, the journey, and then a light in the darkness. You literally have to sail out on the ship to a lighthouse, and here we have, that's the ogres. We're on to the ogre lands. And beyond. Then coming to a brigade's fortress. Really just a tower, but it's enough. Gaining a sword with which to fight the ogres. So quite a lengthy scenario in here, which you're going to be running 101, or playing 101. Essentially as a fully worked out example, which will give you a good taste of what the game is like and about. Well, here we are. Actually, these are the ogres. I sit corrected, as they say. And then we've got an actual map of the fortress, the fort, and a list of rewards as well, and really some very nice maps here. And then over here, list of the followers. I think these are the followers for this particular adventure. Part 7 is the monsters. So just move through those. There aren't many monsters, but they're quite highly detailed. These are the major monsters that sort of like that the player character will face. So they get a lot of attention and detail. As well as being given fantastic illustrations. That's a troll there, of course. Probably the most familiar one so far. And you've got other lesser threats like Fallen and Oathbreakers, Raiders and Schemers. These are more NPCs, as it were. And we've got Gigantas. Two-headed. No flip forward. So, we've got a Kraken as well. So quite a range of different types of monsters and encounters throughout, and there's a real sort of like earthy feel to these. often quite brutish. I mean, that's fantastic. Just attention to detail, sort of like, you know, just the armour worn over the and frayed over that skeleton. Oh, I've got worms as well. I've got an Anglo-Saxon name generator, so this is good for the player character as well as NPCs. We have a game flow chart there, and so just general tables there for generating aspects like a hall for a hero, a ruler for a hall, monster tables to be encountered, including in the lair, background NPC generator, couple that with the earlier name table, and so on. Tables of potential war gear that might be found, and a foreground NPC generator. So something important. We've got the portent tables for creating, you know, the things, sign of things to come, and some samples as well. And that's the master worksheet for the main creature. We've got a social encounter sheet, and there's the character sheet for Beowulf. And a reading list and an index. So that then is Beowulf Age of Heroes, a 5th edition role-playing game, which is designed for one-on-one play in an age sort of like between essentially the fall of the withdrawal of the Roman Empire and the coming of the Vikings, as it were. So, published by Handiwork Games. So, I hope you enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you did, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing your book or game, or in this case a role-playing game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.